So this word creed is used in different ways. Most broadly, it's used to talk about religious beliefs in general, as in persons of many creeds, colors, and nationalities. Also, very broadly, it's used to discern any set of beliefs that guides a person's life, like the Assassin's Creed or the Liberal Creed. There's also a very specific definition of the word creed, which is, a creed is a statement of beliefs to which one must adhere to be a member of a particular religious body. Want to be an Episcopalian, a Catholic, a Methodist? You have to know and affirm the creeds of those churches. Things like the triune nature of God, the virgin birth, heaven and hell, and in particular, that Jesus died for your sins. Usually these documents begin, I believe, as in, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. In Latin, the language the oldest creeds were written in, I believe is credo, hence the word creed. Of all the world's faiths, Christians make the greatest use of creeds. Other religions have simpler statements, which they don't call creeds, but which work in the same way. To be a Muslim, for instance, you must affirm that there is no God but God and Muhammad is his prophet. This is called the Ashahada. The Catholic Church ruled the Christian roost for centuries, and in the early days it was downright dangerous to express doubts about a single one of the dozens of very specific beliefs in the Church's official creeds. You could get burned at the stake that way. The new Protestants mostly used creeds to determine fitness for church membership, although they quickly stopped burning people at the stake. Creedal tests of Christian fitness was the model they knew. But the Puritans, burned by the religious establishment of the Church of England, tossed the creeds, along with bishops, stained glass windows, and even Christmas, in their quest to purify the Christian faith. For their trouble, they endured considerable persecution and eventually moved to the New World, where they colonized New England and set about building a city based on their practices. These Puritans are our direct religious ancestors, but we would certainly not now agree with everything they did. For instance, they made a law that everyone in New England had to live within hearing distance of church bells. And a parish church with clear glass windows was the first building to be erected in a new town. Everyone was expected to go to that church, which was tax supported. The Puritans were pretty strict about what people did. However, they felt that what people believed was between that individual and God. They were, in their own way, children of the Enlightenment, with its more positive assessment of human nature and human reason. The story of how the Puritans became us is an interesting one. Suffice it to say for this morning that about 2/3 of the existing congregations in New England which trace their roots to those clear glass parish churches of New England built with tax money in each town are now Unitarian churches. Which is why we have never had a creed. We have never based church membership on believing the right things. Instead, when it comes to joining together, we focus not on believing things, but on doing things. Our church's mission covenant, which is on the inside back cover of your order of service, is a list of things we aim to do together. Nurture children, help each other grow in spirit, make the world a better place. The affirmation in the order of service, that's not a statement of belief, but an affirmation of our mission, of what we're going to do together. And nobody has to agree with every jot and tittle. It's a poem, not a contract. And when it comes time to welcome new members into our congregation, we ask people if they want to do the things that we are doing here, if they will help us support this place that supports us. And we tell them we hope that this community will help them grow in love and in faith. And the word believe never comes into the picture. On this, we're with the Puritans. What you believe, important as it is personal, between you and God, or you and your conscience. We just don't do creeding. It's not our way. That doesn't mean that we don't think beliefs are not, that doesn't mean that we think beliefs are not important. Not at all. Actually, we think beliefs are really important. So important that we gather as a congregation, converse and listen and think together about them, organize to act on them, and remind each other when we forget about them. We share lots of beliefs in this congregation, and someone who does not share many of our beliefs might decide that they should find themselves a more compatible religious community. The difference is that that decision is up to the individual, not to the congregation. You'll never get thrown out of here for asking the wrong question or for proclaiming what you believe. And if you don't find you have the kind of company here that you need, we will wish you well when you leave to find it. But that's your decision, not ours. So we don't creed here. It's against our religion, not only our history, but against some of the things that most of us believe. We believe that the universe we live in is beautiful and complex and unfolding, and there can never be a statement equally true and applicable to all about what to think or do with our lives. We believe in the sacred spark of conscience within each person, which leads us in many different directions. Another reason one creed fits all just wouldn't do. We do believe here, and we do the sacred work of discovering and molding our beliefs here, as well as exploring and celebrating and living them. To do that, we need to understand what a belief really is. What a belief really is an opinion about a matter that can never be known for sure. It is one guess about the many unknowns of life. Our beliefs have to be about things that can't be proven. They're about God and spirit and goodness and the meaning of life, about an afterlife, the utility of the democratic process in creating a just community, about who to trust and what we should be doing with our lives. Those kind of things are either too complicated to prove using science or completely outside of its realm. So beliefs cannot be proven to be true or not. Belief that can't be true, like believing that 2 + 2 is 5, is not only an absurd belief, it's not really a belief at all. It's an orange in an apple crate. A belief that could never be false is similarly not really a belief. Some beliefs have more plausibility than others, more weight of history, more adherence, more moral force, a better effect on one's life, but not a one can be proven. We come to our beliefs first by absorbing the beliefs of important people around us, our parents and the adults they introduce us to, and then our peers during that dangerous period of adolescence. And finally, as our brains mature, we begin to think for ourselves, examining our own lives and thoughts, and perhaps ranging further into human knowledge and human experience in our studies. Our beliefs also come from our own experiences, interior and exterior. The person who's been betrayed or abused may have a hard time believing in the goodness of people or the goodness of God. The person who has never had a spiritual experience will naturally have a hard time believing in God or any other spiritual reality. The person who's never met a trans person or a Muslim person or an atheist person might have more difficulty believing that those people too have worth and dignity. Our beliefs are the result of our upbringing and how we processed it, about our experiences and what we make of them, about our role models and what they taught us. And each and every one of us has beliefs. There is a God is a belief, and so is there is no such thing as God. I believe in going out of my way to help my neighbors is different from I believe that each person should take care of themselves, but they are both beliefs. Believing is a part of human life. You don't get out of bed each morning without gathering your beliefs around you. What would be the point? And furthermore, it matters what we believe. It matters a lot. We mold our lives based on what we believe, and society is molded on the beliefs of the majority. So belief in a stern and angry Father God makes for stern and angry fathers in human families and a strict and punitive father-like government. Belief that your religion is the only true religion makes it hard for people to see the humanity of those who believe differently. And a society that believes that its religion is the only true religion is almost always oppressive to those who don't share it. A belief that God will produce justice in the next life gives license for all kinds of injustices in this life. A belief that nature was created for humans to use, or that humans have evolved to such an extent that they're not really a part of nature anymore, either of those beliefs suggests that exploiting nature till she drops dead is okay. President Obama believes that our sorrows right now can make our nation better. And I'm sure that comes from a more general belief that he holds that our sufferings can help us grow. Do you believe that? If you do, you will go easier through life's difficult patches. Believing that Jesus was sent to teach us how to love motivates us to love our neighbors. Believing that each person is important and that every person has worth and dignity helps us work for justice in society. Believing that God loves us helps us to love others and ourselves. Now, every once in a while, I hear some well-meaning you say, in this church we can believe whatever we want to. And I got to tell you, a person can ruin a minister's life with a thing like that. It's the fingernails scraping on the blackboards. It's rarely fatal, but it's a real downer. And I know you say it all the time. And I think you mean, when you say it, that membership in this church is not contingent on explicit agreement to any set of beliefs. That is to say, we don't have a creed here. And that's true. But that's really different from saying you can believe here anything you want. Because we can't. We are unable to believe anything we want to. That would put us in a theological Alice in Wonderland, where Alice is told by the Red Queen that she is so good at believing that she has sometimes believed 6 impossible things before breakfast. But really, friends, consider the source. White rabbits don't carry stopwatches. There's no pill that will make you small enough to jump down a rabbit hole, and it is not possible for a healthy person to force themselves to believe something that they don't believe. Even Alice is skeptical. So we can explore our beliefs. We can introduce ourselves to beliefs that might work for us. We can experiment with believing something to see if it will be helpful in our lives. We can think about the implications of our beliefs to see if we really believe what we think we believe, and so on and so on. But we can't actually believe anything we want to. Take, for instance, believing in hell. How many people here were taught at some point in your life that there was such a place as hell? Quite a few of you, right? Now, having talked to many UUs over the years, I can tell you some of the things that happened next. So while it's usual for children to accept their parents' beliefs as they're taught, some of you, even as very young children, thought that you really couldn't believe that thing about hell. Others of you believed it until you discovered that your Jewish friend was going there, or your atheist military buddy, or that nice librarian who stocks the books which your minister declared to be of the devil. And those things made you ask your parents or your teachers, really? But the librarian is kind. The atheist is a true patriot. The Jewish friend is a good person. And then maybe it was explained to you that it wasn't goodness that was the issue here. The issue was correct beliefs, and only Christians could be saved. And then in geography class, you learned about isolated tribes and lands where there were no Christians. Or maybe as a young adult, you traveled to some of those lands or had a college roommate from one of those lands. And at some point you said to yourself, I don't believe that. I can't believe that. That doesn't make sense to me anymore. No good God would do that. Or whatever you thought. Whatever happened to you, though, you can't really say that you could believe anything you wanted to. We come to our beliefs, sometimes unwillingly, And we can resist them or deny them. We can be quiet about them. We can challenge them. We can run from them. But they are what they are. We can't will ourselves to believe things that don't make sense to us. We cannot force ourselves to believe things that are not a part of our experience. Most of us would have taken the easier road of Orthodox Christianity if only we could have believed what we were told as children in Sunday school. Would have made life simpler, right? But early or late, we decided we couldn't, and so, unwilling to profess what we did not believe, and clear that the first person to know if we did would be God himself, that God we were now having doubts about, we left and found a church where we could be free of the pressure to believe in what other people had experienced and to pursue our own path instead. The point of this church is not that we can believe anything we want to. The point is that we can express and explore the beliefs we find ourselves with, unhindered by what we're supposed to believe. That doesn't mean that we believe nothing or have no faith. No one can live without beliefs and faith. We believe much. We believe, by and large, in the inherent goodness of human beings. We believe that knowledge is better than ignorance. We believe that honesty is the best policy. We believe that the democratic method is the fairest one there is. We believe that every individual human being has inalterable worth and that we must treat them with dignity. Some of us believe in a pretty traditional kind of God or goddess who answers prayers and watches over us. Some of us believe in a divine force working for good in our world, but without contact. Some of us believe there's no God or force or anything supernatural like that. Almost none of us believe in hell. That's our universalist side, a story for another day. But we have an even larger variety of beliefs about what happens after this life than we do about divinity. We mostly don't believe in a God who sits in heaven deciding which prayers to answer and which to ignore, but many of us pray to align ourselves with the mystery of the universe or to bend its invisible forces in a desired direction. All of these are statements of faith and belief. They can't be proved, only defended. Nor can their opposites be proved, only defended. We can't live without acting on assumptions that can't be proved. We're not offered a choice between believing and not believing. Rather, we're offered a choice of competing beliefs. And this church exists to help you learn about and make good choices about all those competing beliefs because they matter. Naturally, when people are exploring becoming a part of this community, they want to know what you believe. And mostly when people ask that question, they're expecting the answer to come in the form of a creed because that's their experience. So when people ask you that question, you have to start by blowing their minds a little. I say, first you have to understand that we don't have creeds. We don't all believe the same things. We gather to grow together, challenge and support each other, discover and live our beliefs. Everybody's welcome. It's a path, not a destination. And then because I want people to understand them, I tell them about some important things that lots of UUs believe. Lots of us believe in the worth and dignity of every person. And therefore we believe we must be fair to those with whom we disagree and even those who transgress the worth and dignity of others. Lots of us believe that we exist within a web of life and a web of community, and we should tend those connections and consider the long-term consequences of our actions. Lots of us believe that truth unfolds over time, that great books and historical teachings can guide our search for truth, but should never limit them. We look to the future, not to the past, for greater truth. Lots of us believe that our nearly infinite universe is complex beyond our understanding, and therefore multiple and differing perspectives are not necessarily in conflict. Therefore, we endeavor to be curious about the faith of others. Lots of us believe that our religious beliefs should lead to action in our lives. Lots of us believe that the world is good and unfolding towards greater good, though as a series of switchbacks, not as a straight line. We often say, after Martin Luther King, who got this phrase from 19th century Unitarian preacher William Ellery Channing, that the arc of history bends towards justice. Lots of us believe that we're better together, that it's good to be a part of congregations, communities of care and concern, and conversation. So how do we live in a world like this one, overarched by climate change that could be catastrophic, punctuated by gunfire, terrorists, the angry and the violent, permeated by racism and injustice, which we all know, even if we are not its current victims, could eventually engulf us? How do we get up every morning if we know, if we let ourselves, that a drunk driver or a wayward heart could flatten us in an instant, that a foolish moment could take a loved one from us, that a fire could deprive us of all that we have? We get up each morning in spite of all that because of what we believe, and it matters what we believe. We start with, it's good to be alive. We move to, how can I help? We ask ourselves, what sustains me? We wonder, this thing that I've always believed, is it really good? Does it still seem true? Does it help me in my life? We join communities like this one, where we're accepted and welcomed and asked if we want to help. We live believing and better together.